Hello everybody and welcome to another video. In this video we're going to be talking about a couple of the new changes that Games Workshop have been talking about for the new edition of Age of Sigmar. Mainly modular rules and the dreaded double turn. So get a brew, get comfortable and let's jump in. So yeah, Games Workshop, I've dropped a couple of articles this week in regard to the new edition. Mainly modulation of the rules, very interesting way of saying there are core rules and advanced rules. And obviously the priority rule, the double turn, and what that actually means going forward in the new edition. So let's jump in and have a little look at it, because it's pretty interesting, you know. New edition's going to be soon, and hype is real. So the modularization of the rules is pretty much this. So obviously we have the rules, the core rules, which is basically moving, fighting, shooting, unit coherency, and objectives. So basically everything you're going to need to play. Now I would imagine, and pretty much from what they've said, Spearhead, which is the combat patrol, essentially for Age of Sigmar, will follow the core rules and probably have a little bit of Spearhead stuff to sort of single it out a little bit. Then there's the advanced rules, which are basically things like commands, terrain, magic, army composition, command models, and battle tactics. So we're going to go on a little look at them as well. But there are other things that we can look at. Of course, that is not the only way to play the game. As you can see here, we've got Spearhead, Path to Glory, which is the narrative Age of Sigmar. For all of you 40k players, it's basically for Age of Sigmar Crusade. The new Path to Glory, there is match play. So you're sort of pitched battles using points, etc. And then there's the General's Handbook, which is more of your competitive seasoned play. And as you can see, seasoned special rules. So during the articles, they talk a lot about how this modularization will help balance the book. And they use an example of, say, command points, how they're able to in the General's Handbook, and how they're able to, rather than FAQ it, take out that module, that section on command points, and basically put in another section. Same as magic. If magic, so right now as an example, we've got the sort of wizardy themed thing in the General's Handbook where we get primal dice and everything else like that. In future seasons, General's Handbook in 4th edition, rather than have the core rules module for magic, or the advanced rules for magic, the General's Handbook could basically swap out the magic rules for a new set of magic rules based around that season. And this seems to be the kind of sort of mentality that they've got. Obviously, the internet was wild with this when we read the article, basically suggesting that this is Games Workshop's way of selling us a new book. Rather than a digital FAQ, which is free, they can just sell us a new book because it's a new module. We'll see if that's what they're going to do. Let's hold faith that that's not what they do. But we'll see. But yeah, it seems to be pretty good. Obviously, as you can see, they're color coded, and it'll be interesting to see if those colors will marry into the colorization of the rules and phases of the game, as well as the symbols that they're adding into this as well. So they're slowly but spreading out. But the biggest thing that they wanted to talk about, which was today, which was the priority rule and the double turn. And obviously the double turn is such a Marmite subject. You know, you either like the double turn or you hate the double turn. And a lot of people who generally criticize Age of Sigmar will bring up the double turn as some form of bad thing. As a seasoned Age of Sigmar player who's played for all 3 editions, the double turn is a little bit fun. It's a part of the charm of the game, and I enjoy the double turn. It's kind of an interesting concept. one of the things that I often hated and disliked about 40k was that sometimes, depending on the matchup, a game could be decided by a single roll of the dice at the very beginning of a game. You know, you could lose that roll and not seize the initiative. And seize the initiative is a very fun mechanic and something I enjoy in the Horus Heresy. But you could lose that roll and end up going second, and rather being the player who's dictating what's happening in the game, you spend 5 or 6 turns reacting to what your opponent is doing, because they constantly get to go first. With the double turn, you can kind of get back against that. You can go back at them in your terms, and you've also got to remember as well that if you do get double turned, just like in 3rd edition right now, all of your buffs will carry over. But we'll jump into the double turn and the priority and have a little look at what they're talking about. So the priority roll is a pretty big thing for Age of Sigmar, and generally how it works is, and as it does right now, for the first turn, whoever goes first is decided on who sets up first. So if you build up an army with less drops, what I mean by drops is like battalions and units. So if you have 12 units and you don't have any battalions, you have a 12 drop army, essentially. If you take a battle regiment that basically fits your entire army in there, and it comes with the one drop rule, so everything in that battalion drops down at once, then you have a 1 drop army. And in most cases, if you've got a 1 drop army, you will go first. Unless both players have the same amount of drops, then you'll probably roll off to see who, sets up first. The person who finishes setting up first will gets to choose the turn order, which is kind of cool. And it's the same thing going into 4th edition. So every battle round afterwards, which is basically from battle round 2, players make a priority roll, and the winner chooses the turn order. The first player in the previous round chooses the turn order if it's a tie. So this is basically exactly as it is now. This isn't changing, which is good news. Nothing is changing here. One of the things that we could look at is they talk about in this how the army composition has changed and is going to be changing coming 4th edition. So hopefully in future articles we will get something on army composition. I'm a big fan of the army composition that is currently in Age of Sigmar, and I'm hoping that they don't break it too much. I quite like it, and what I mean by that is right now it is for a 2,000 point army, it is 6 heroes or leaders, the minimum of 3 battle line units, the maximum of 4 artillery, 4 monsters, 3 endless spells, and then you can have as many as everything else that doesn't fit outside of that. And it's really quite simple, it's really quite good, and it's kind of sort of a little bit like the old school force organization stats that we got in 40k, and which is still around in Horus Heresy now. But it would be kind of cool, but we'll see what they do with that. But the double turn, and this is the biggie. So as we get down here, they talk about the double turn in this sort of little bit of a blurb down here, and the double turn is going to be an interesting one. So basically the gist is, and the biggest change that they've decided to make is that if a double turn comes up and you go for the double turn, you aren't able to pick a battle tactic that turn, which is pretty huge. Obviously, we don't know how battle tactics are going to work in 4th edition. We don't know if they're going to stay the same in regards to pointage. So if they're 1 point or 2 points, right now they're 2 points, but we don't know if that's going to change in the next edition. But basically, if you opt to take the double, then you give up those additional points. So you're really going for primary points, which is like your objectives and things like that. Now, one of the things that I did see, and Pete Pratt, who is an absolute exceptional player here in Northern Ireland, and is probably one of our big TOs and rules guru, come up with a very interesting observation that if you win the priority, you get to choose who goes first or second. So, unless once we see if this is clarified, you've got the potential of giving the priority to your opponent, forcing them to take the double turn, and therefore reducing their ability to score points in that round. Because if they take the double turn, they can't take a battle tactic, which means that you're able to do in your turn go for the full max battle tactic plus primary, and they're not. So that's a really kind of interesting way of looking at this, that there's a little bit more nuance to it now rather than just taking it and smashing face or taking a battle tactic and scoring points. Now, obviously, we don't know if that's going to be 100% legit, but as the article has said, there doesn't seem to be much to say that that can't be done that way, which is kind of a really nice tactical way of doing it. So be interested to see if that is a thing and if that's going to actually definitely happen. But this is the double turn. So the double turn is changing. It's going to be a little bit more impactful. It's more of a meaningful thing. Like, you know, if you're pretty much well ahead and, you know, really need that battle tactic, or you haven't got a battle tactic to take, and I know as a Cities of Sigmar player, I have this problem a lot because there's not very many good battle tactics in the book, and sometimes you can't really get them in regards to the core ones. So, you know, for me, it might be worth just taking the double turn and doing some damage to limit what's coming back at me, and giving up those points when I wasn't really going to score any anyway, because I wasn't really going to be able to pick a battle tactic. So yeah, there's a lot. I think there's a lot of really interesting sort of shenanigans that could be done here. It's kind of interesting. I'm really liking it. I'm liking it a lot. It kind of gives me a lot of faith that maybe that this edition might be good. Obviously, the faction pack is definitely still there, hanging over everybody. And if it's going to be good or bad, you know, what are they going to do to my army? Is it going to be, you know, are they going to screw it? Are they going to make us really overpowered? And we were talking last night at the club while playing and letting the team guys practice for their Worlds games. And I was unfortunately at the receiving end of a Seraphon Mortal Wounds spam list and watched my entire army get lifted in one phase. It was hilariously horrible. But yes, it was fun talking to these boys who play the game on a far higher level than what I do, and some of the interesting takes that they had as well. So it was the conversation and the discussion is very good. The hype is definitely there. I'm definitely looking forward to the new edition. But let's just see what they do with the faction packs. And yeah, obviously I've now got my glass cabinet in the background, everybody. Yay! And my chain axe, which I will be painting soon. But yes, it's an interesting time. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. And that is the video. Hopefully next week they will do more of these articles talking about 4th edition and what different changes. One of the things I'm really looking forward to do is actually seeing a war scroll and seeing the universal special rules. I'm particularly interested in seeing weapon profiles because they mentioned that weapons now have rules, or some weapons will have rules, and I imagine that's going to be so I'm gonna imagine that's going to be sort of like a sort of the universal special rules. So things like the Stone Guard for the Lumineth Realm Lords, who have a weapon that do mortal wounds on 6s. There's a lot of weapons in the game that do that kind of thing. The Fulminators, as an example, for the Stormcast Eternals and other weapon systems in the game. And I can imagine that there'll be a universal special rule to give that. Like, let's call it Deadly Strike or Deadly Impact or something. Something along those lines. Now, one of the things I'm hoping that we don't get is Devastating Wounds. I'd be very upset. I'd be definitely a sad panda if Devastating Wounds definitely turns up. But the Devastating Wounds isn't a massive issue in on its own. It's when we have things like that influence the critical wound, which I imagine is going to come in from 10th edition 40k, which will and you know, if there's the rules or universal special rules that influence that, as long as it stays as a 6, it should be good. But it should be interesting time. So there's a lot of things up in the air right now that we don't really know. And obviously on May the 18th, 19th, I believe, there is going to be an open day at Warhammer World where you're able to go to Warhammer World and actually try the game. Obviously, there is no Warhammer Fest this year in the UK, which means no Golden Demon, sad times. But you're going to be able to get to go to Warhammer World and play the new edition and see the new edition. And I've got a feeling that that's going to be the weekend that they're going to reveal the big box. They're going to show us the new Skaven, show us the new Stormcast Eternals, and shows all of the new shiny new toys. And it's going to be a good time. And I'm still saying that pre-orders will probably start at some point at the beginning of June, and major day release in the shelves on everyone's hands. I'm still saying this will be the 22nd of June this year. Obviously, it's this year, but 22nd of June, which is a Saturday, and it's probably the second last weekend of June. I think it's going to be a 2-week pre-order window for the box. If it's like 10th edition launch, then the week before pre-orders go up, we'll probably get the free downloadable core rules and our faction packs ready for pre-orders for the box and the 2 weeks up to the launch. I'm fully expecting that some point this month, near the end of next month and into next, we'll start getting the faction focuses where they'll talk about each of the factions, what's changed, what's good, what's good and bad, and all of this kind of stuff. Kind of what they did with 40k. And when they do, I will fully cover them all with a nice little video. And obviously, Cities of Sigmar will get a big glow up because that's the army I play. So, yep. But we're going to call it there. If you like the video, please like, subscribe, do all the good stuff. You know the score. You know the thing. Do the thing. And you can check out my other things such as members and Patreon and all that kind of stuff if you want to. And yeah, and whoever shared that post on Instagram, thank you very much. That is blowing up nuts. And yeah, Instagram is getting a lot of love right now. So thank you very much for whoever did that. So I will see you all in the next video. Yeah. Should hopefully be a painting one, maybe. I'll see if I can get it finished. And I will catch you later. Goodbye for now.